So that I'm not.
Reggie, where's the list? I forgot the list.
Oh, the list? Oh, this is where we're going.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there we go.
Hello.
Oh,
Hello there.
I don't think they heard me.
I don't think so. Hello.
I'm Brandon D. Johnson,
Hi, Brandon.
and this is the American Poetry Museum. Today we're here to talk about Where the Pieces Come Together, which is an anthology of memoir that I had the pleasure of editing for the Writers Working Workshop. This is my story. The 8 writers in this anthology are Reginald Winston Freeman, Seraphine Abendstern, Carolyn Miller, Priscilla Bittencourt, John West Bay, Rebecca Cusick, Manuela Leah Palmieri, and Teresa Rankin. Now, the creation of an anthology is not an easy task. I've been part of the creation of another anthology in which I was a writer. And like this one, it was a workshop. We didn't start out with any such intention. Then a light bulb came on and we said, yeah, let's. And it was done. I have a feeling that's just what happened with this. For a person to write memoir about their life requires openness that we don't all possess. To tell the world about yourself, the good and the bad, takes bravery. This book, this anthology, is a chronicle of bravery on the part of these authors. As the editor, I respected that and did my best to get the authors to express their feelings and their bravery. Now, 6, maybe 5 of the authors are going to read for 2 minutes from a couple of their pieces. I should tell you, the anthology is divided into 2 parts. Where we enter, and then live to tell the rest. I would be remiss if I didn't mention and thank the workshop facilitator, librarian, fearless leader, and really caring, heart on his sleeve, good guy, Chris Stevenson. Without whom none of this would have occurred. Then Jose Ballesteros and Zozobra Press, who put all the pieces together in this book. After the reading, you'll be welcome to ask questions and to also buy books. And at that time, I'll also do a little American Poetry Museum business. First up, I'd like to welcome Jose to the stage.
Hello everybody and welcome. It's an honor to be here. This is our second launch, which is really exciting. It's been a true pleasure to be a part of this project, and the more I hear from the readers, from the writers live, the more proud I am to be a part of it. I was wondering what I was gonna say today, and I decided that I should read to prepare I should read the publisher's note, but because the publisher's note is my only piece of writing in the anthology, I fell in love with it again, and so I'm just going to share that with you. By the way, I have to say that so far, Where the Pieces Come Together is our fastest selling book at Zozobra. It's our fourth book, so congratulations. Zozobra Publishing is proud to collaborate with DC Public Library to bring you Where the Pieces Come Together, essays by the This Is My Story Memoir Workshop. With this publication, Zozobra launches a new initiative, Zozobra en la Comunidad, lending its publishing expertise to bring to the public work by mostly novice writers with important stories to tell. We hope you enjoy these stories as much as we did and that they inspire you to tell yours. The publication of this collection would have been impossible without the generosity of the Friends of Petworth Library, a community-based, volunteer-run nonprofit which raises money to support the Petworth Library and promote literacy in the Petworth neighborhood and the District of Columbia. We are immensely grateful for their support. There's just a few more people that I'd like to thank with whom's work at the community price that they offered to us, the anthology As It Is would have been impossible. And that is the copy editing that went in by Story Garden Editorial, the cover and cover page design by Heather Janaidi at HD Design Company, and finally the cherry blossom paintings by David Amoroso. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jose. I also want to welcome anyone who is watching us via Facebook Live. Hello. And I will, first I'll just give you the list of who's going to read and the order in which they're going to read. First Reginald, then Seraphine, then Priscilla, then Rebecca, then Teresa, and then John Westbeck. Now, I will suggest to you that if you hear that train come around the corner, speak up. Because there's freight trains and metro rail, and it gets loud and sometimes it's long. Persevere. Like you did for this book. See what I did there, right?
I see what you did.
Okay. Reginald.
Hello. Okay, this is from my chapter entitled Love Finally Wins, 5-4. Dwayne kept his promise to me. He surprised me for my birthday by taking me to New York City to see the Broadway musical, Rent. He had seen Rent before, but refused to tell me anything about the plot. He wanted me to experience the moment just like when he first saw it. Our seats were center orchestra, 5 rows from the stage. I was transfixed and I was awestruck to see that the main character, Angel, was a Hispanic gay man and a drag queen in a loving relationship with a strong gay black man. I could not believe I was seeing this type of love story on Broadway. More importantly, the audience approved with applause. I looked at Dwayne after Act 1 and we held hands. To see Angel during Act 2 die on stage from AIDS and listening to his lover sing an emotional song to a powerful conclusion brought tears to my eyes. His beautiful baritone tenor voice and heartfelt performance was a showstopper. For the first time, I experienced a different kind of Black love on stage. This moment enhanced my life permanently, and I shared this with Dwayne, my partner, friend, and lover. I glanced at Dwayne to see him cry for the first time. I placed my arm around his shoulders as he rested his head upon mine. That one moment made a permanent impression that continues to define our relationship today. Dwayne and I remind each other of that moment of true love and live each day guided by the words of that final song, No Day But Today. There's only us, there's only this, forget, regret, or life is yours to miss. No other path, no other way, no day but today.
Hello. Auf Wiedersehen in paradise. I was born in paradise. We had no crime, no killing, no stealing, no insults. Officially, we lived in heaven. Newspapers reported every day about our big accomplishments in industry, agriculture, and education. Theoretically, everyone had a right to attend university, especially the working class. Universities were free of charge, rent was as low as $25 for a two-bedroom, and the loaf of bread was 25 cents. Inflation didn't exist. Listen to me, our third grade teacher said. One day, money will disappear. We'll just go to a store and pick up whatever we like. By that time, we will be wise enough to take just the things we need. And that's what we call communism. So stop fighting about that candy over there. You'll have plenty. Strange, I thought. But really, how important is money at that age? Absorbed in my own little world, I didn't bother to question that bright future. My concerns were the Olympics. Swimming fast, training like a maniac, and winning medals was all there was to my little universe, until it cracked. Thank you.
Happy New Year. Boom, boom, boom. The sewing machine wakes me. Lying in my top bunk bed, I look at the corner ceiling and spy a little spider making her new home around a dead fly trapped in her web. I look at the clock on the wall. 11:30 a.m. Mine, haven't you finished yet? Silence. Mine? Mine, yeah! What? Shouts my mother. Come down here, I can't hear you. Okay, come in. I jump off my bed and trip at the clothes piled up on the floor. I jerk open the door, kick dresses and sandals out of the way. Maria, my mother, sits on an antique rush seat, pedaling her Vigorelli sewing machine. Mother spent 6 days sewing and tailoring that mini dress. 11:59 p.m. The beach is packed. A gigantic scream shows a clock on the shore. 3, 2, 1. 12 a.m. Boom, boom, boom. The year 1995 is born. People drink caipirinhas, sing, hug. Cars honk and blast music. 6:40 a.m. I open the front door. Mouth agape. My mother stares at me. I don't leave the house for a month. Then one Saturday, I forced myself back to my local nightclub, trying to regain my life. I see my friend, sweet Mario. Oi, Mario, Happy New Year! Priscila, querida, Happy New Year! You disappeared, what happened? Yeah, I've been so busy. So I heard, he says. Heard what? You and Flores. Me and Flores what? He told me the two of you had sex. You know Flores? He's my classmate. And just like that, I find out. My dress, my makeup, my innocence and my soul, all stolen by a lost student. I look down, change the subject. There is no way I could tell Mario the truth. I am the fly who survived the spider's web. Stay in denial mode was the easiest way to protect my fragile 16-year-old self. To this day, a flame red car has the power to trigger a flashback. I spend the rest of my life regretting his getting away not only with rape, but controlling the narrative. You should have reported him, I hear you saying. Oh yeah, sure. So I was 15 at this time.
Turbulent times for a teenager. Lima, Peru, 1974. I just finished my shower and was still dripping wet when I lost my balance. I tried to plant both feet on the bathroom floor, but had to hold on to the wall when it happened again. My heart was racing. What's going on? I hadn't taken any speed since last week. Was this a flashback or something? The floor was still moving. I had to sit on the toilet to get my underwear and hip hugger bell-bottom jeans on. I scrambled to put on my white short-sleeved t-shirt on over my head. The whole bathroom shook. I gotta get out of here. I lurched to the door and stumbled down the long, dark hallway, holding onto the walls until I saw the openness and daylight of the living room. I called out to my mom, who was standing at the large expanse of windows that made up the top half of the wall of our 11th floor apartment. Becky, come here. I think it's an earthquake. I ran to the window, and the two of us, excited at the novelty of it, held on tightly to the windowsill. We almost banged our heads on the glass while we craned our necks to see what was going on above, across, and below us. The pictures on the wall and dishes in the cabinet were clanking and shaking as we watched the masses of electrical wires swing between the high-rise buildings in uncoordinated rhythms above the street. Seconds later, our housekeeper, Laura, was holding onto the walls at the living room entryway, staring at us. Like idiots, we said, "Laura, come look! It's an earthquake!" Realizing we were completely oblivious to the danger, she screamed, "Peligro, peligro!" while frantically waving her arms to get us to come to her. Through the urgent expression on her face, she yelled, "Terremoto! Peligro!" She got us to pull ourselves away from the window. She led us down the hall into the guest bathroom, somehow making us understand it was the strongest and therefore safest place in the apartment. Yes, this is an earthquake. And yes, earthquakes are dangerous.
Hello. Hello. Glad to see you all. And welcome to Brooklyn, too. My story is called Love to Dance. Rewind to DC summers almost 50 years ago. My band of young lesbians, housemates, girlfriends, softball buddies, would get together and go to the Phase Bar. We rode in our VW bus that shook when it picked up any speed, but she had a great sound system. She'd shimmy as she took us to the dark curves of Rock Creek Parkway as we sang the Pointer Sisters. I can't sing, but yes we can, can. We'd laugh while holding on the side straps, ready to dance. Talk came from everywhere in the band. Well, Ann and Lisa meet us there. What about some of your softball friends, or Leah? I don't think we'll ever finish this damn mail order catalog. Who knew running a women's mail order book collective would be so much grunt work? Will Allie make it after her shift at the hospital center? I hope Sue and Cassandra, with their in-love selves, will stay home. Patty said she might try to come, but she doesn't need to see Cassandra with Sue. We inherited our van from a collective member. It was a sun-bleached blue and white Volkswagen with too many parking tickets to drive. The former owner knew a fix. You can order new vehicle tags by mail from Alabama, or was it Georgia, for $15, she said. It needs some brake work, but I've upgraded the sound system. We took the van to Wrenchwoman, which was a woman's garage owned by lesbian mechanics who helped us replace the brake pads while teaching basic repair. In a matter of months, the tags arrived. She was legal to drive. The Fays Bar, for years I thought it was a place called Fays, F-A-Y-E-S, a woman's name, but anyway, was at 8th Street in Southeast D.C., not far from the Marine Barracks. But like most gay bars in the 70s, it was intentionally hard to find. No windows or big signs, hidden on a real retail street. If you didn't look closely, you would have passed right by the doorstep and dim yellow light. The storefront church and small business next door were closed and dark at night, and the bar's diamond-shaped sign, Phase 1, had long ago faded into the rusty brown wood facade. One could walk down that block 100 times without knowing Phase existed, unless you knew, and that was the point. The bar was noisy, smoky, and always crowded on weekend nights. There were several small tables near the entrance, a tiny raised dance floor, a few more tables in the back, and a pool table. The bar stretched the length of one wall. A cute butch bartender served beer and cheap wine on the standard cocktails in plastic cups, rum and coke, 7 and 7, nothing fancy. A small flashing disco ball and another mirror on the wall side of the dance floor gave the illusion of more space. Dancing was tricky, hot, and close. There was no room for fancy moves. It was mostly disco shake or bump and grind. I did not grow up dancing. Coming out, I discovered I loved to dance. At Phase, I followed the dance moves of the women around me. Black and white women, older women, butch and femme, dancing close together or enjoying dancing alone. I especially watched the couples, glued together or moving easily, executing pair dancing in that small space. I watched covertly, glancing at the big mirror in the back of the dance floor, sometimes changing my beat or moving my feet to try what I saw other women do. We were young lesbians intent on not conforming to straight women's roles, and we shared the space with older women who played pool and drank and talked at small tables. We looked different. Longer hair, jeans, always casual. I admired the women who used the bar as a regular base. They came after work. They were cool. For me, Phase was an uneasy mix of familiar and unfamiliar, safe and unknown. A place for women to dance, touch, and flirt. I was a newcomer to the lives and rituals of the older gay women around me. Still, when Gloria Gaynor's song, I Will Survive, pumped through the sound system, we all rushed to the tiny dance floor to dance and sing the lyric.
Hello. Hello. The chess lesson. All right, he said, here's the rules. The pawns move forward one space at a time. The rooks move straight up and down and side to side. The knights move in the L shape.
the bishop's in a diagonal. The queen can move up and down, inside and aside and diagonal. And the king, one space in any direction. You got it? Yeah. We set the pieces up. We played. He beat me. I didn't quite know what happened. I just knew the goal was to trap his king. He did that. I didn't. The next day, we played again. I watched his moves. He beat me, of course, like 3 or 4 times in a row. With each win, he would flash a grin that appeared to give him a feeling of superiority. Hey man, instead of you beating me, why don't you teach me how to win, I said. You'll figure it out, he said. We played again. He beat me again. We played a few days later. He beat me again. Each time we played and he won, I understand a little bit more. Even though I lost, I had fun. It intrigued me. I thought about the times we would have our G.I. Joe battles, where Ian would always have to be the good guys, and I had to be the international terrorist Cobra. I thought to myself, man, what if the bad guys came up with a plan so good that the good guys couldn't beat it? Would the show be over? I guess I'd have to work harder to beat the good guy. So the day after that, I begged my mom to take me to the store to get a chess set. We got the one with the red and the black board and the black and white plastic pieces. She also bought me a book called Bobby Fischer Teaches Chess. It was a small white paperback that had all these pictures of chessboards in different positions. I reviewed each one and took a pencil and drew the answer to each problem. I had heard of Bobby Fischer and I knew he was good. He had beat the Russians, and in 1986, beating the Russians was the best thing any American could do for their country. And if he could beat the Russians, then I figured he could help me beat Ian.
Okay. How you guys doing? Good, good. We'll get to the second part in a moment. What time is it? 3:41. Okay. My phone is recording things. I want to talk quickly about the American Poetry Museum. We are a nonprofit organization. We promote poetry, art, and community. That's why we allow or invite other organizations to come and do certain things, to do things that are within our programs, writing, literature, art. What is on the walls right now is the work of poetry of Simon Shea. He published a book called Master about his interactions with his, he was a Muay Thai fighter. And so he believes that some of the poetry should not be read by someone to people, but should be free from the book. So what he's done is actually put it on the walls. There was a book launch a couple weeks ago, and then he did a reading last week. His book is available here. The American Poetry Museum is a nonprofit organization, and one of the things that how we keep the doors open, how we, our curated work, how we pay our poets, and pay the musicians when we have our events is through grants and generous contributions. If you are so moved, there is that box over there, and also the QRL code for making any kind of contribution you want to make. Any of that would be appreciated. Let's see. Oh, we also do an open mic the first Friday of the month. So the next one is the first, second, third, fourth, 6th from 6 to 8. It is titled If All the Trees Were Pins. And it's not just poetry. Some people come and play their guitars and sing. One guy showed the start of his game. Some folks will do their poetry or sing. One time we had a guy come in with his band and perform. But you're welcome to come. It is because they also, Sasa Akil, who is the host for it, also pays the featured writer. The event is $10 a piece. Let's see, October 15th, we have a reading by, I think this is one of those things that happens when you get a little older. The first thing that goes is the names. Lisa Pegram will be here. She's born in D.C. She now lives in the Caribbean, and she'll be coming up for that event. And that's on a Sunday from 3 to 5, just like this one. I should also say that the American Poetry Museum is open Thursdays 5 to 7, Fridays 5 to 7 when we don't have an event, Saturdays 9 to 5, and Sundays 2 to 5. It's always opened by a poet. So one of the things that we do is encourage folks to come in, sit down, read, write, think, talk to a poet, talk to anybody actually. And some folks actually come in and ask, would you look at my work? Sure, we'll talk about it, gladly. Because he's here. John West Bay is the founder of the American Poetry Museum. And it was part of a dissertation. Can a living museum be created? And that's what this is. I know some people think museum, it's a whole bunch of dead paper and dead men and all that kind of stuff. No, this is a living museum. And so that's how we have poetry performance, art, community. So thank you all for coming and for participating. Now, who's up next? Again, Reginald Freeman, Seraphine Abensstern, Priscilla Bittencourt, and John West Bay.
Okay, this is from my chapter entitled Impact. Upon arriving at Newark International Airport, I wished my cousins safe travels, opened my trunk for Robert to retrieve his luggage, and gave him a big hug to send him on his way. We waved goodbye to each other as I drove away from the airport. Immediately, as I reached the New Jersey Turnpike to head back home, I had flashbacks to that lunch with Rachel. I could not shake it. My moments of despair turned into anger, which turned into tears. I began crying uncontrollably and started screaming, "Why did this happen to me? I did all the right things. I worked my ass off. I had to work twice as hard as my white counterparts. Why were they able to keep their jobs and I was forced out. Why? Why? My right foot on the accelerator felt like lead. The speed limit was 55 miles per hour. I was always a safe driver, but in that moment, I was not myself at all. In my disquiet, I felt my right foot press harder on the accelerator. 60 miles per hour, 65, 70. My vision blurred as I breathed hard and heavy. All I could see were what looked like lines through my peripheral vision, interrupted by tears cascading down my cheeks. 75 miles per hour, 80, 85. I was losing all control as if I was having an out-of-body experience. 90 miles per hour, 95, 100. I shook, contorting my face as snot rolled down my lips. I screamed obscenities at the top of my voice. 105 miles per hour, 110, 115. My eyes opened wide as I regained focus. But it was too late. I lost control of the steering wheel and ran straight into the median. I ran at full speed. Crash! My upper body fell to the floor on the passenger side as the front of the vehicle crumpled like an accordion. The steering wheel was forced into the back of the driver's seat. I didn't see or hear a thing.
That's the train we're talking about, right? All right now. Jerusalem syndrome. Can you hear me? Okay. I work with mental cases, she says. What? Coming from Jerusalem, you must have heard about the Jerusalem syndrome? No. I move my chair into the shade, take a deep breath, and allow myself to sink into the beauty of these old trees, tracing their entwining roots on the ground, crawling upwards like snakes, pulling my mind into a fairy tale world. Well, it happens to quite a lot of people, she says, drawing me back into reality. They spent their savings just to see the old city. Then they tour around the places they've read about, walk the path of Jesus, carry a cross, recognize the street names and cities mentioned in their holy books. It's too intense for some. Not everybody can handle that. Really? Yes, and before you know it, they start to believe they themselves are prophets sent by God. Wow. I smile. Fascinating. No, it's not. It's a very serious condition called the Jerusalem syndrome. Just because someone invented a name doesn't necessarily indicate a disease, or does it? I say. Maybe I have spotted a few prophets myself. Thank you.
I know I don't have a lot of time. I just feel the need to say thank you to my husband to be here. Te quiero, cariño. And also for hours and hours and hours, Chris, you spend one-on-one with me, helping me how to become a creative writer. I owe that to you. Thank you. ready for Michael's. In all psychological wars, it's never over. There's just this day, this time, and a hesitant belief in our own ability to change. It's not that an arena where the unsure should go looking for absolutes and there are no permanent victories. It's about a living change filled with insecurities, the chaos of our own personalities, and is always one step forward and 2 steps back. Bruce Springsteen, Born to Run. If, like me, you have inherited a mutated BDNF gene, your body might release excessive cortisol, the stress hormone. One secret to counter that? Endorphins. Ponytail, check. Black and white marble leggings, check. Okay, calm down, dress. Fitted race, tank top, check. Okay, I feel like Marilyn Monroe now. One last look at the mirror, face mask on, and the ritual is complete. I'm a gym rat, ready for a bozo, my favorite fitness class. Michael, hi Priscilla. I enter the fitness room and grab a spot. Michael gives us the 1-minute warning, but I sneak out of the room with my cell phone. Speaking softly. Hey Juju, ready? I can't hear you, he yells. Asking if you're ready. Yep, I have them both here at the notary's office. You can go ahead. Cool, I will call you back. As soon as I hung up the phone, I opened my Brazilian bank's app. It's my first time using it. I want to transfer money, but at my first attempt, a message pops up on my screen flashing in red font to add insult to injury. Não foi possível, please try again. 6 months earlier. Juju, you think it's time? For what? He asked.
I should also mention that next year is going to be the 20th anniversary for American Poetry Museum as well. So, and I should also mention this piece is going to be funny, but I encourage you to read the whole thing.
Indeed.
Rituals. Back in the winter of 1998, I go to visit my girlfriend Michelle at her mom's house in Henrico County, Virginia, right outside of Richmond. She lived in one of those fabricated suburban townhouse communities where all the units looked exactly the same. She calls me and tells me to come by, and I ask no questions. I go to see her for all the reasons that a college-age guy goes to see his girlfriend. I drove my navy blue 1988 Chevy Cavalier. It's my first car, and I paid $700 for it from a shady car dealership that disappeared a week after I bought the car. It was consistent at breaking down after traveling more than 20 minutes. The car did, however, help me to learn how to change spark plugs, brake shoes, change oil. I kept it going for as long as I needed to get where I needed to go. The driver's side window was busted out after a failed attempt to steal it, and it had a pattern of dents and scrapes on the driver's side door from when I miscalculated the distance between the door and the chain link fence. If you looked at it from the right side, it looked fine, but from the left, you could see it had gone through some things. Even with all its problems, I still loved that car. I was used to it. Maybe it wasn't what I wanted, but I made it work. Michelle's mom's house was about 30 minutes away. I knew what to do if the car broke down. I'd go through the ritual of checking the brakes, checking the mirrors, holding down the ignition key 3 seconds longer than normal, jerk, pop, vroom. If it starts to feel like it's gonna cut off, give it some gas. If the engine starts to jerk too much, I pull over, put some water in the radiator, wait for it to cool down. I pull into Interstate 64 West, careful not to drive over 50 miles an hour. I was doing well until predictably after 20 minutes of driving, my car stalls as soon as I pull off the interstate. I let it cool down on the side of the road for 5 minutes and start up again. I turn on the ignition and keep going. I pull up to her mom's townhouse around 9 o'clock, brush off my blue button-up shirt, not this one, and pop my last Tic Tac. As I walk towards the door, I give 3 light knocks, and her mom answers the door and gives me a look to let me know we will not be alone that night.
Once again, okay. Now, this is the question and answer period of the show. And what we'd like to do, and what I want you to do, is for the writers to come up here. I'm not going to answer, unlike the last time, I'm not going to answer any questions. While folks are coming up, one more thing about the American Poetry Museum. When we do a reading, there's also a jazz combo playing behind it. So you get music and you get words.
Now I'm coming every Friday.
Well, that's not on Fridays. That's, oh, the other thing. If you want to keep track of what we're doing, you can follow us on Instagram, American Poetry Museum. You can follow us on Facebook, American Poetry Museum, or you can look at our website. What's the name of it? All right. Come on up.
First question.
Are there any questions? Make some up.
What inspired you all to want to do this?
So if you're talking about putting the anthology together, many of us had been meeting, I think it was every other Monday, just to write our stories, thanks to the DC Public Library. Thanks, Chris. And little by little we got more comfortable writing, and started, some people already knew they wanted to share their story and publish, others like myself just wanted to write, get it out, and never wanted to put it into print. And the idea came about, I'm not even sure how it came about, to do an anthology a little bit before COVID hit, and I'm going to say the rest is history, except it was a struggle to put it all together, and here we are. All right.
That was your answer.
Anybody else?
I had decided that I wanted to write my memoir, and it was very difficult for me to start the process because I couldn't write my memoir until I wrote a chapter of something very tragic that happened to me at 8 and 9, and I could not write about that. So I had a conversation with Chris, our instructor, and he gave me the support that I needed. and I was able to write that chapter. Now that chapter isn't in this anthology. It will be in my personal memoir. But the chapter that I wanted to include was Love Finally Wins 5-4, from the first piece that I read from. And that's to say that I finally found love, because I didn't think that I was just servant of love. And I too thank my husband for being here, and that's Dwayne Allen right there in the middle. And he's been very supportive of me because he just wanted to make sure that I was doing something positive in my life and trying to be more therapeutic. And this workshop has been very therapeutic for me. And so as a result, we were all so enthused that we would be in an anthology like that, because we had no idea that we would actually be published authors before our actual memoirs. So this is a win-win situation for us all.
And I'll also say, Jose from Zozobra Publishing, the previous things he had published were not what this was. So he took a big chance on a bunch of writers who, this was our first time doing memoir, our first time doing this type of writing, and being guided by the workshops of Chris to be able to make this happen. So, you know, it's everybody trusted each other to do something that none of us had really done before. So that's the significance of this.
A little more casual, I think. I came to the class because I wanted to do some writing. I wasn't sure I wanted to try it, and I trusted the library. This is a plug for the libraries, because the libraries put out this thing about free classes to come and write, and it was at Petworth. I live here, so it was close, and so I showed up. And I didn't actually even know it was a memoir class. I probably would not have signed up for a memoir class. But once I got here, and it went through all the things that free things do. There were a lot of people some class, not very many the next. There was, we just did a lot of ebbs and flows, but we stuck with it. And Chris was consistent around giving us prompts and inspiration and his own story. And we really became not just a group of writers, but I would describe us as a community of writers. And so I'm grateful for that. But that's how it happened for me.
When I first heard about the writing workshop, I felt afraid to go because I was a foreigner, and I thought, oh, they're going to laugh about my writing. I have an accent, but I felt the courage. My husband gave me the courage. Just go. And it turns out that nobody laughed about me, but they only helped me. Each one of you guys. Chris, I only can say that about them. They're just helpful and made me feel comfortable to talk about things that are very, very difficult to do. I want to say also that when you talk about this grace, I was happy to discover along the way that I wrote it with hope and because I felt it. I also chose to write about those experiences because not only to get the sympathy from the readers, but also to get empathy, because a lot of people went through things that I did, and I want to make them feel that they're not alone, and that it's okay, and that things can happen to anyone. And that's pretty much it. And I really appreciate to be here today. Thank you.
Another question.
So, I spent the pandemic hearing Chris's voice occasionally, or hearing a story about John or Reggie or Rebecca or Caroline, right? I would hear the stories, I would read pieces of it sometimes, Priscilla would share. And then I met you guys, but what I'm curious, because in a way, when I look at you, when I hear, when I see the different experiences, you're all very different. So I wanted to ask you, what did you learn from one another? Like, what made you connect? What was, after these 2 years?
That's a very good question. I'm going to give a similar answer that I did at the book launch. When my first class with this group, Priscilla was reading her piece about New Year's Eve. And I'm sitting in the class, this is my first time, I don't know anyone, and I'm listening to her read about a very unfortunate time when she was raped. And I started to hyperventilate because I knew after she read her chapter, Chris was going to ask us what's working with her chapter and what needs some help. And I know that he was going to ask everybody to give some feedback. I wasn't really ready at that time because I haven't had the chance to put pen to paper about what happened to me at 8 and 9. And when I saw Priscilla read portions of her chapter, I saw her strength. And I said, if she can do it, I know I can. And so we're kind of kindred spirits now because we've gone through this process together. And I think that she's stronger, and I know that I'm stronger. And I need to get this out so that everyone can not only read it, but those who have experienced any of these things, that they know that there is an upside to this eventually, but you have to do the work. And that's what we're doing.
I have a question. Okay. Memoir is one thing, telling a story about yourself. Rather than telling a story about yourself, you also have the opportunity of writing just a fictitious story that might incorporate the things that you've gone through. Why did you choose to talk about yourself rather than the metaphor of your life?
Yeah, my answer to that is very unromantic, not romantic at all. So for me, it was, we moved to DC from France in 2018, and I was looking for a writing class, and I found it online, and so that's how I found Chris. But I also saw that he has like fiction writing classes, and for me, being new in the city, it was the better time. 10 o'clock in the morning was the good time for me. 7 o'clock in the evening were the nice fiction class, which I probably would have preferred. I only went there like twice. I saw you once on a Tuesday class, yeah, and then I went once or twice to a Wednesday class. So that's how I got to the memoir writing, because I wasn't like eager to write about myself. Rather than, hiding it in a different person makes it so much easier. So, get it.
I'm going to kind of answer both questions. For me, I guess I'd always read people's stories, memoirs, or memoir types. So I was only interested in memoir writing, and people said, oh, he's always saying you need to write, a book, which I'm not going to write a book. But at least it gave me an opportunity to write down some of my experiences, and write what you know, and I know me, I guess. But I think the other question about how, I don't remember how you phrased it, but for me, the community was built by, I feel like I have a connection with each person in the group, and it came through the stories they were writing or maybe the reactions to something that I wrote. So it just becomes very, very personal, and we do put ourselves out there. So there is a lot of trust and a lot of love. Amber, stop it.
Done. Actually, like I said, I didn't know I was choosing memoir when I walked in, and I feel like memoir, I'm going to talk about how it affected my sense of the group. It's just, as you said, people write memoirs, writing about yourself. It's like more than the introduction where you say to each other, say something you like or say something you don't. Well, memoir, people are telling you their stories, typically the things that matter to them, you know. So, and that was a real gift. So I learned things about folks that, you know, you wouldn't pass on the street or go to a party or even work with them, I know. And I also felt like we all liked writing and books and words, which I love. So that was another part. And the other thing that I got from this group is it's an incredibly diverse group. I knew beans about many people coming to this country from other countries. I didn't know their experiences, you know. Born and raised in Virginia, went to Philly for a while, came to D.C., all right? Read a lot, but, you know, so the people in the group who have experiences, different countries, different, you know, experiences really brought something and created knowledge that I didn't have. And I think understanding, I love D.C., so that's here in this city. Those kind of stories are all over the place. And this group allowed me that. And then I also think, you know, the big issue is, and I believe this from Virginia, is race, is black and white in the city and in the country. And I felt like we explored tough issues in a way that was about, okay, what did I understand about your piece? What didn't I understand about your piece? You know, tell me more. And that created a sense of trust that you don't typically have on a subject that, whether it's about, you know, politics writ large, but about people's lives and how they've been informed. So all of those pieces, and I will also honestly say that having other queer people in the group was great. You know, I really, you know, I love Reggie. I mean, he's a fabulous organizer and all those other kind of things, but there's a connection there, and that really also helps. So that's how the group, and for each person I could say something, but I'm going to stop there. John is a de facto, he will never admit it, but leader and wisdom. So, there you go.
What made me choose memoir was that I finally lived enough life that I had a bunch of interesting things to say. And I, as you can tell, love poetry, so I've had years of reading other people's wonderful poetry, but not the ability to write my own wonderful poetry. So I figured if I could benefit from the writing and having relationships with wonderful writers, then that could help me to tell my own story and put some elements of poetry in it. That's it. But also, I think Chris should come up and say something, because I know that you wrote that thing, that intro over and over again as a labor, and you deserve to come up and talk about, if nothing else, that process of contributing not only to the workshops, but how This Is My Story came about, but also that introduction that I know you worked so hard on. So, Chris, come on up.
Look at the watch.
It's a microphone. I'm going to try not to be political. But I'm not on the clock, so it's okay. So for me, memoir, so memoir serves a couple of purposes. One is entertainment. Another one is solidarity, and the other is to learn something. And they've heard me say many, many times, right? Poetry is truth, and fiction is about possibilities, and memoir is about how you came to those possibilities and those truths. And so for me, I write memoir, I write fiction, and I write poetry. The hardest is really memoir because it requires a sense of vulnerability. And when I was working with them, and you can ask them, I would tell some of the most ridiculous stories that you've probably never heard, and I would do it on purpose so that they would be like, oh, okay, well, so then I'm allowed to talk. Because you should be allowed to talk, and you should be allowed to talk because whether we like it or not, there are 7 billion people on this planet, and we all have to live together somehow. Audre Lorde, who was a librarian, said that we have to be able to accept each other's differences, and not just accept them, but appreciate them. And she said that from the angle of liberation, and you know, I would say that it's one of the toughest things for any of us to try to do. So you know, for me, there were some intentional things here where, you know, the origin of this comes from me working in Ward 7 and 8 as a day laborer and hearing stories from people there. And you know, I was often the only white person, usually the only white guy, and so people would tell me just stories that were familiar, but also stories that were just wild. Like, you know, I was working at an auto auction, and this guy just looked at me, and he was really upset because we were working for minimum wage. And for me, I was just like, you know, I just graduated from college, and then I was just like, oh, I get to drive Lamborghinis and Jaguars. I know it's only $40 a day, but he's just like, look, $40 a day, I could be selling cocaine and make this in an hour, and you're telling me that I've got to drive these piece of junks that have high price tags on them. And then it was just like, well, shit, I'm sorry. Well, okay. I mean, you know, this is a story that people need to hear. And so when I started working for the library, I started looking at oral histories because, you know, it's real easy, and I know this became a word that a lot of people threw around. It's really easy to get trapped inside your bubble. And the only thing about bubbles is that while it is certainly normal for people to hang around with people who are like-minded and alike, is that's all you know. That is your only knowledge is. And you know, to go back to Audre Lorde, one of the curious things about being able to accept each other's differences is that when you put yourself in that position to accept each other's differences, you find out that in your differences you are more alike than you let yourself to believe. On some very simple basic things, and I always tell people very simple basic things. We all smell bad if we don't bathe. That's a thing. I'm sorry. That's it. We all need food, and we all use the bathroom, and we all need to live on this planet together. And so, you know, I said I wouldn't get political, or I would try not to. But the thing is that, here we go. You take a look at the bestsellers list on any given day or any given week, and you will see which memoirs matter most to people, right? And I have heard people say sometimes, well, why does anyone need to hear your story if you are not famous? And my answer is, those are the stories you don't need to listen to, because we know those stories, and we might like those stories because they're easy. You know, they're not hard. They're just easy. I'm sure Prince Harry is a great guy. You know, but the only reason why we're reading his memoir is because he's famous. And yes, there are important issues that are attached to that. But you know whose names are not at the top of the bestseller list and it's nobody in Ward 7 or 8. And I think, wow, better go Chris, not political. Anyway, the point here is that that sense of vulnerability. I think it's important. And what I will tell you though is that one of the most beautiful things, and then I'll stop. One of the most beautiful things that I've seen come out of these workshops plural, I have 3 workshops, are the friendships that are made. And these sorts of like intentional communities of love. And I know I say that and it's like, well, love is a bold word, and it is. But at the end of the day, that's what it is. And when I introduce new people into these groups, I just gotta say, look, this is a loving group, and sometimes they get scared and run away, and sometimes they're just like, well, this is where I have to be. There are 2 members that are no longer, a member of this group. One who lived in Tacoma, which is all the way at the tippy top of Washington, D.C., and one that lived down in Bellevue, which is all the way down at the bottom of Washington, D.C. And they became friends because of this group. They started taking their dogs on doggy dates and everything. And then I got to tell you, like, that's awesome. Like, that I was able to be able to facilitate something like that is amazing. These are people on opposite ends of the city that were able to become friends. And you know, they're all friends. Like, outside of me, they're all friends. I think I'm more aloof than anything, but you know, I talk to people and they're chatting with each other and they're friends, and that's, you know, that they're an intentional community, and that has all come from people sharing their experiences with each other and talking to each other. And I will say this last thing is that these were people who should have been talking to each other the whole time, and now they are.
I grew up in a home with domestic violence. Terrible things have happened. I saw terrible things when I was a child. I have a very good memory, and that sometimes is bad because you remember the bad. My father had a lot of problems, and one of them is that he was very racist. So I saw that when I grew up. And, you know, sometimes people say, oh, you're going to be what you see because that's the only thing you see. But, you know, everything I saw when I was little, when I decided to leave Brazil, I decided to leave those things behind me and learn who I am today on my own. And when I thought about everything I went through and how I could recover from those things and understand how life is and how humans beings are and how much empathy people can have for you because they went through the same things, I thought I need to write. And I want to write about that for years actually. And then I had this opportunity to be here, and if I'm very honest, I don't think I would ever write if it wasn't for this group, for Chris, from each one of you. And then there is this sharing feelings and empathies and things that I've learned about each one of you guys that I thought, I had no idea those things happened to this person. And that happened to each one, literally, of the people in this group. And it was so tough to me to be able and to feel comfortable enough to talk about racism because I saw those things when I was little. It wasn't hard because they made me feel comfortable. They made me feel that it was easy to talk about those experiences also because I'm very proud to learn what I've learned as I after I left Brazil, and also with this wonderful group. And one of the things that I learned most, I think, after the individual feelings that we've been sharing between each other, I learned so much about African American history that just made me feel still more proud to be in this group, and I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Brandon, I'm glad you asked that question because it's personal for me. I wanted to be in a memoir class and not fiction because I lived my entire life in fiction. I never told my mother what really happened to me, and she's no longer here for me to actually speak those words. Even my best friends never knew what happened to me until now. And I said enough. I was holding on to too much stuff, and it was holding me down. And I needed this memoir class to thrive and to be alive, and then finally speak my truth to my mother, Mumsy. And I know she's looking down and she's still giving me that wonderful hug that she always did. But enough was enough. And I have to also say, throughout this process, when I was trying to write something about my true life, I did it in lyrics, in poetry. And I did it with my other friend, Carney, who is here from New Jersey to be here with me today. And we have songs that we've written together that will eventually be a part of my memoir as well. But when I joined this class, it opened my eyes and gave me the strength to finally be really who I am and not pretend to try to make people like me. If you like me, you do. If you don't, you don't. But I cannot hold on to those things anymore. I have to be true to myself. It's hard to not like it. Bless you. But so yes, this was personal for me. I had to do a memoir because I had to speak my truth.
Any other questions?
What do you guys got going on next?
Well, I've already answered that.
Okay, class dismissed. Well, as I say in the my editor's note, that I don't read memoir, and which I was talking to a friend about that yesterday. I don't read memoir because really I want to just get the facts about people. If I want to get the facts, I can just pull up Wiki and just read the facts. And in fact, and I won't mention the name, but there was one person who first wrote their piece that they submitted, and it felt like it was just a wiki. And I said, I need to know how you feel. And so that happened. It is a big deal what you all have done, and I appreciate what Chris has done for. I'm a fiction writer and a poet, so I appreciate what Chris has done to bring all of us together to create a community, different communities. Thank you, Jose, for agreeing to print this, and I will ask you I guess we're gonna wrap it up now. And if you could, bring your chair and just set it over the side here. take a look at the work that's on the wall, read it a little bit, and I'll just conclude this with I'm Brandon D. Johnson, and this is the American Poetry Museum.